Welcome to this special edition of Hannity. I'm Pete Hegseth in for Sean on this Monday night. And we begin tonight in Delaware at Joe Biden's private residence, keyword, where on Saturday we learned that even more Obama-era classified documents were unearthed, discovered. This is the fourth such finding. And it comes after White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre falsely claimed that the search was complete. There's nothing else to find. Oddly enough, Biden was at the scene of the crime this weekend. Of course, we don't know what he was doing or who he was meeting with. Despite spending much of his presidency in Delaware, there are no visitor logs at his home. According to the White House counsel, quote, like every president across decades of modern history, his personal residence is personal. Which begs the question, why was classified material just lying around in a personal library and a personal garage with boxes around it? And why did the federal government allow Biden's personal lawyers, some of which don't have clearances, to conduct the search just a few months after raiding Mar-a-Lago and seizing documents at gunpoint? And think about this. As Congressman Jim Jordan points out, quote, what prompted them to look for Joe Biden's classified documents in the first place? Good question. Here now with reaction, the author of The Price of Principle, Harvard Law professor Alan Dershowitz, and Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. Professor, their defense, this is a personal residence, they say, yet they believe he has prerogatives. What is their defense right now?
Well, I think ultimately the defense is going to be carelessness, sloppiness, no malevolence. Other presidents have done it. Whataboutism? What about Donald Trump? What about Sandy Berger? What about Hillary Clinton? We're gonna see a lot of comparisons, and in the end, we have two special prosecutors. They were appointed because if you're going to appoint one against somebody who's running for president, you should appoint another one for the other person who's running for president. Neither will recommend prosecution. If either of them does, Garland will overrule them and there will be no prosecution. Probably the laws will be changed, and we'll see now a new process by which the archive come to the House and remove everything the day the president leaves the White House. I think we're going to see that change.
So Professor, you say it's going to be pretty much nothing followed by a change in the process with no repercussions for Biden?
I think there'll be no repercussions except political. People, even the Democrats, are now saying, oh, my God, he said how sloppy Trump was. Look how sloppy he is and how irresponsible he is. We'll see political repercussions. I do not think we'll see criminal prosecution against either. If there was ever a chance that Donald Trump would have been prosecuted for what he did, that opportunity has disappeared as the result of this kind of tit-for-tat politics where everything has to be equal and whatever is good for one has to be good for the other.
It's only equal when they're caught with their hand in the cookie jar the second time, and then it's time to be equal for everybody. Greg Jarrett, you had a great op-ed at foxnews.com saying Biden is at greater risk of criminal jeopardy than Trump in classified document scandal. Why do you believe that?
Well, with every new discovery of classified documents at different locations, the case becomes stronger for criminal charges against Joe Biden. And every time he and his defense team offer a defense, they only incriminate themselves. For example, they're now saying, well, at Biden's residence, it was personal. That underscores the fact it's an unauthorized location under the law. Their other defense has been, well, it's inadvertent. Well, remember, the lesser standard under both criminal statutes in play here, 1924 and 793, is gross negligence or recklessness. Inadvertent is literally the dictionary definition of carelessness. So Trump, in a way, is admitting guilt. But my big question here is, where is the FBI in all of this? 73 days elapsed between the first discovery and the last one just over the weekend. Where was the FBI? Their first duty is to control a potential crime scene, to secure it, to seize and collect the evidence. Their second duty is to seek out other venues. But they haven't done that. Instead, they have allowed free will of Biden's lawyers to go through documents and secure them and pick them out and hand them over. Think about that. I mean, the duty of Biden's lawyers is to protect their client. Wait a minute. Their duty is to protect their client, not to gather evidence for the government against their client. That is a monumental conflict of interest. Merrick Garland and Christopher Wray don't seem to give a damn.
Well, what about the doctrine that a sitting president cannot be prosecuted? That seems to be what was pushed very hard by the Republicans when there was talk about prosecuting Trump. How can they now turn it around? How can you now say that a sitting president can be prosecuted when the Justice Department has a rule? The Constitution seems to suggest that a sitting president can't be prosecuted. So how would that happen?
Well, you can simply wait till he leaves office and hold the indictment in abeyance. The other part of this is, Trump had the unfettered discretion and authority to declassify. The vice president doesn't have that. Yes, I know the New York Times and CNN have cited an Obama executive order giving the authority to Biden. That was null and void the moment Obama signed it because, as you know, Professor, a president cannot unilaterally modify or alter or expand a constitutionally given power. And so, no, Joe Biden didn't have the ability to declassify, which is exactly why he's not asserting that defense, but rather inadvertence.
But there is
Professor,
Trump,
real quick, is part of what I heard. Is part of what I heard from you that it's just because it's Joe Biden, he was a vice president, and as a when I was an infantryman, if I brought one piece of classified information home or out of a classified area, the law is ironclad. Is part of what you're saying it's just because of his position?
Well, that's what should be reviewed. Every single case of a person who lost their classification, who lost their jobs, as the result of comparable conduct should be reviewed, and their classification should be restored. You can't have one rule for a president and another rule for an Army officer. It has to be the same rule. But as to the issue of Trump having declassified, that becomes an evidentiary issue. Did he actually declassify specifically while he was president? Of course, Biden can now declassify, and that might contribute to transparency. Why doesn't he declassify the Ukrainian information so we could know for certain that it didn't bear on his son or on any other issue relating to Ukraine? The president can now declassify, and I think he should, consistent with national security.
I wholeheartedly agree that it's a matter of evidentiary dispute as to whether Trump declassified documents. But good luck, Merrick Garland, trying to prove otherwise, because the president has such authority he doesn't have to tell anybody. He doesn't have to put it in writing or sign any document. He doesn't have to notify any individuals or affected agencies. He can simply do it on his own. So how in the world can you contradict and disprove that Trump declassified documents? You simply cannot.
No, I agree with that.
Greg Jerry, Alan Dershowitz, we got to leave it right there. Professor, we got to leave it right there. A great discussion, though, illuminating. Thank you both.